Hey everyone, Ian France here. This is going to be my review slash analysis of the latest Love, Death, and Robots Series 2 or Season 2, The Drowned Giant, which is Episode 8, the final episode in the latest series that was released. I have not read the original work by J.G. Ballard. I've not looked at any other commentary about this, any other thoughts about this. I'm excited to. I have some saved, but these are going to be all my original thoughts here about what it means. And I've watched it 4 times. I've taken these screenshots at very specific points to show you that there is no accident in what was put together into this story. And let's just get started. So, what we have happen here are 3 scientists who show up at the beach. These are our 3 scientists. This is our anchor character here and our narrator. Um, they're going to go to the beach and they're going to see that there is a giant dead laying on the beach. Now you see that he is very unadorned. He's completely naked um, and well kept. They're going to walk down to the beach, down to the crowd here. They're going to mingle amongst the crowd, and if I didn't show them earlier, they're pretty hard to find, but here they are. And here's our main character here. They're dressed like everybody else. This is no mistake. This is showing that the academia and the academy has bent to the knee of neoliberalism, and they are customers. These are all customers now. This is very important to the story and where I'm going. I'm not, you may think this is tangential in my own opinions, but you're going to, I mean, if you, I'm not going to spoil it right away, but if you don't know what happens, this is suggestive of this, that, you know, market driven. If you don't like it, talk to our customer complaint department, right? But we are here to serve the customer, and I believe that's why they're dressed like this, and they appear with all the other people looking exactly like they look. Now, no one has their phone out here. There's only one shot with a cell phone. We're going to talk about that. But you see, nobody has their phone out, and they're all kind of in awe of what's going on here. And so they're trying to figure out, who is this man? And as they walk up, they say things like, he was low-tempered, there's only one narrator. He appears to be a low-tempered, sort of noble man. He's in good shape. His skin's taken care of. He looks pretty healthy, pretty good. And you come to find out, really, that it's himself in a lot of ways. That we find that this becomes a sort of man versus his own inner man journey. But that's kind of revealed here, that you can make that connection, that it's him looking at himself in a lot of ways. And he walks up to this pool of fish that are swimming in the giant's palm here. There's 3 fish, and they're moving in a whirlpool direction. And he talks about being able to know something absolutely, that this giant exists, and that we don't have any doubt about that. We can know something through empirical means. This exists, and that is very comforting. And it would only be comforting in a world where such a thing is questionable, where the foundations of what we see as empirical truths were not shared by everyone around us. And so this is getting a bit into kind of where we find ourselves today in modernity, in which we have hierarchies and structures that control us, which are totally untouchable by an individual, and impact us in huge, massive ways. This is, very similar in that kind of vein. And so, what is the first thing that we must do? Well, we must conquer this giant, and that is what this woman does. She's the first one to climb up on that giant, and she kind of gives a big wave out to the crowd out there that she has conquered that giant and she's standing up there strong and proud. And this is sort of having to um, get over on our inner self and journey, and this becomes a little bit of a relation to a God in a way, and you're going to start to see that unfold more in the story. And so now it's like, okay, everyone come in. We're going to climb around on this giant, and thus we slowly begin to defile him. Once everybody climbs on board, this is a woman balancing on the nose, and she almost falls off, somewhat to suggest, that razor's edge between life and death and play and what's serious. And she loses her balance here, and she almost falls off the nose. Um, this is being observed by the scientists. They're writing it in their journals, except for our main character. Our main character has no journal. It took me a while to really kind of watch for that, but he has no journal. And this anyway, I was checking my notes. This is the close of the first day. So that happens the first day, and then he returns the following morning, and he walks down, and this is where we start to throw our garbage. We begin to defile the God before us, and it starts very slowly. Decay has also begun to appear on the giant. And we walk down, the crowds are now starting to dissipate a bit. We see his penis here, which becomes important later, but he's laying there, no visible rings or any kind of jewelry on him. We wander down and we see the child in the ear with a fairly small phone. This kind of reminded me of like when people would go and sit in cemeteries and read books and so forth and be around the dead. But it's also, I think, very symbolic that this is the little world. The phone is the little world. And our being has become that little world. And so she doesn't look up, she doesn't acknowledge him in any way. This child just looks at her phone, and it's symbolic, I think, in the ear, really kind of not listening to the symbols and the things that are coming through from this experience. And so we decide to go up on the giant for the first time. Sorry, I jumped forward there. Tried to zoom in on this. Here we go. We decide to go up on the giant for the first time, and we walk to a sandcastle here, and this is collapsing. The sandcastle is kind of falling apart already, and this is kind of, I think, represents the tomb of kings that we find on Earth. The mummification process that was done in Egypt, which became completely buried by sand. Something that was once so important to the people and the culture and the civilization and the surrounding areas who made it, only to be totally forgotten, taken away by time and by the elements. And I'm going to bring up another example in modern day Mexico City once we get to the skulls of the exact same thing. So this is not a single phenomenon. We can go back to Newgrange, we can go back and just find all these things that have been left over planet Earth and just abandoned. And so I think this is a symbol of that. We're coming to the tomb of the king. It's another sort of religious metaphor here, in our giant, which represents, I think, God in a lot of ways. And so, let's see. Um, we form a hypothesis of his death here. We believe this is what killed him, and coming to find out, this is actually wrong. And so I'll show that in a minute here. Um, I was looking. I thought I saved the picture of the butchers. Maybe I didn't. Um, but they show him with two arms. So it's just interesting that our main character kind of gets that wrong. That yeah, I didn't put it in here. Okay, so the butchers already came. The butchers showed the body here, and they showed it with both arms before this happened. And this was their first sort of. I think this is the first thing they tried to do, which was cut his arm off. And so here we look in his eye. And when we look in his eye, we see, of course, his eye looking at us looking at his in his eye. And there is actually a skull here. There's a couple of eyes, and there's a mouth. And when he moves out of the way, you can see a skull form here. There's some cigarette butts in his eyeball. There's some, garbage and detritus and things kind of starting to form in here. And I'm going to go a little bit into a painting that I own called Wander Above the Sea of Fog. And in this painting, there's a man looking out. There actually is an eyeball looking back at us in this picture as well. And you can see it really nicely on the print that I have, but there's some clouds that are going up, and just sort of the way that things are here. This is actually kind of the lifelight of the eye. And, if you look at this for a while, I mean, on the print, it's pretty obvious, but, this is looking back at us at the same time we are looking at it. And that's I think the same exact metaphor here. All right, now we're really going to start to tear this corpse apart. And now he's been spray painted. We have kids down here painting graffiti on him. We've chopped another arm. We've chopped a leg off. The penis is now shrinking a little bit from where it was. His head is actually turning away from the sea slowly in this, and it's turning towards us. In the first couple of scenes, it's kind of facing the sea, and now it's slowly turning towards us. Now, as we get closer to the body, we see the religious symbols that are now on it. There's a cross here. In a couple other ones, there's a pentagram. There's something else I can't remember, but we come back. We leave that day. We come back, and we find that the head's been removed. Sorry, here's some of the. I forgot a couple of things I want to mention real quick. So the eyeball scene again. There's another sort of twisting whirlpool of the mortal coil, and I thought that was interesting, and sort of the insults to his body. It says, "Loser, up yours." Dead man, hail saint and piss. Dead man's interesting because that Jim Jarmusch movie is possibly overlaid onto this. That's a really good movie. Yeah, okay. So now the head's removed, and this is a relief. He's relieved that the head's removed, and trying to figure out what are we doing with the body here. Well, he walks down to the shore, and it's been hollowed out, and it's being processed not through the funeral rites of the funeral pyre and the significance of the people sort of, being there to cross the giant over into death, but it's being consumed for what we see as profit. We suspect profit because we see all the other parts will be consumed as profit. But kind of what I wrote is, the spectators are gone, the spectacle is all over, and not even death carried any significance to their project. They have long moved away from this and moved on with their lives. Um, there's a man with a camper. It's in service of the individual. This is back to another sort of neoliberal idea, which is the individual is paramount. Everything has to be in service of that individual. Their community is no longer a relevant factor in decision making for markets. And so that's what we see. Like, this is a market driven decision. This is an economical sort of thing that's being done here. And um, yeah. This ends the current couple of days, and we go months later on the next scene. Months later, he's back in the village, and what have we done with parts of the body? We have commercialized them. We've put them in around town. They've kind of washed up. They're kind of these forgotten relics, or they're just, used for commercial purposes. And he goes on a bike trip. He takes a bike out to the country. Oh, sorry. And he finds the skull. Not in a well-kept location, in a desolate, area with garbage, and it's half covered in a tarp. And this is completely disrespectful to the body. And I wanted to show you back in, let me go back here. Back in what is modern day Mexico City, they're excavating. This was just 5 years ago, so this is pretty recent. And there's actually articles just a couple months ago about this continuing. But underneath Mexico City, where the Aztecs had Tenochtitlan, was the capital city of the heart of the city-state, was this temple complex. And in that temple complex, Mayor, there were these skull walls that were made here, the Zompane. And these were talked about in the Spanish conquistadors' journals, and they held thousands of skulls. They're the entranceway. There were human sacrifices under the obsidian blade of young men. They aged these. There are some women and children, but a lot of them were like men in there between 20 and 25, they think, who were sacrificed, of course, keep, appease the gods, keep the city healthy, all that. But, it's pretty amazing if you just search like Mexico City and Skull Rack or Skull Tower, like, there's a whole bunch of information on it. Well, I haven't looked at these, but let's just say these dates are somewhat right in here. Given 1,000 years, let's say, how far we've come to, skull. You see a skull out in 2021. You know what it's going to say underneath it? I can tell you exactly what it's going to say. Not for sale. Because every time I see a skull, it's not for sale. Okay? We have drifted very, very far from death being present in our modern societies. We ship our old people off to these homes where they rot and die, and we forget about them, and we expect the state to take care of them, etc. We're not, again, death doesn't matter to our project. It's not integrated. It's an afterthought. Yet as I as this shows us, all these things of nature will outlive us, right? They will wash away all the things that we create. This sort of cycle and this vastness to things. And we see this once strong man laid to ruins here. And what to make of his penis? Well, we make it a side show at the circus. No accident that he's smoking. We see the body defiled with tobacco cigarette butts, and he's lighting up a cigarette here. He's trying to charge kids admission. They're just trying to sneak a peek, very monitoring the entryway to the tent. And it's mislabeled. He has it labeled as a whale penis, although it once belonged to the giant. And again, people kind of trapped in their small little world, only caring about making a profit. All right. Yeah, I mean it's just a shriveled, impotent part of his manhood here, which the Tool's last album, the song's called I can't remember, but the lyric is like warrior struggling to remain relevant, warrior struggling to remain consequential. I think it's called Immortal. But anyway, it kind of reminded me of that. All right, at last, we have the final bones, like a shipwreck, which has just come in, caused a lot of onlookers who later leave the bones here. This is one out at the Oregon coast that I've gotten a chance to go to, very similar. It's shipwreck. It's on a lot of maps. And so we kind of see that. And the final scene is the seagull taking flight, lifting up from the bones. And there's sort of an uplifting moment where our narrator talks about he sees a reflection of nature itself, a large sea beast, and he sees himself in it. And he's sort of rejecting the secular, dreaming of that resurrection, dreaming of that returning home, and I think dreaming of that reconnection to a spiritual self, a soul that is trying to touch the Godhead, trying to matter and not just exist and move around in their time. And this kind of reminded me of the Bad Company song Seagull. It's really great. It's like, seagull, you fly across the horizon and until somebody shoots you down. And I felt like just kind of thinking about that and the giant washing up. And we don't know how he died. We don't know if it was an accident, if he fell out of a boat, if it was intentional. Was he, murdered and put into the ocean and washed up? I mean, I like that there is no clue as to the source of who these giants are and what why they matter, and apparently they don't matter that much. And this man's reflection as he kind of observes this all happening around him, it's pretty deep. And if you haven't seen it, hopefully I've inspired you a little bit to go and look at this. It's only 11 minutes long, but that's sort of my take on it. Thanks so much for checking this out. Leave me any comments you have. I'm going to check out some other people's reviews too. All right, thanks. Bye.